Today we delve into a story about Regnum Christi, a Catholic movement born in Mexico in 1941, spreading across over 30 countries, promising spiritual renewal but trapping thousands, especially consecrated women, in a terrifying system of control. Women were forced to follow stringent rules: no talking during meals, only one phone call home per month, and reporting even their most private thoughts to superiors. Friendships were forbidden, emails were monitored, clothing and posture were dictated, and daily schedules were micromanaged down to the minute, leaving no moment of freedom. They were also pressured to constantly recruit new members, suppressing independent thinking to conform to groupthink. This story is based on credible sources such as Vatican.va, Catholic News Agency, NBC News, The New York Times, The Associated Press, National Catholic Reporter, and Press Herald. In 2010, the Catholic Church was rocked by a series of scandals, among them Regnum Christi, a lay movement linked to the Legionaries of Christ, became a focal point. Founded by Mexican priest Marcial Maciel, the movement promised spiritual renewal and evangelization, attracting tens of thousands of Catholics worldwide. But behind its spiritual facade was a system of harsh control, psychological manipulation, and deprivation of autonomy, particularly for consecrated women. Regnum Christi, meaning Kingdom of Christ in Latin, was established to unite lay people, priests, and consecrated members in the mission of spreading the Catholic faith. By 2010, the movement had about 70,000 members across over 30 countries, including 900 consecrated women living like nuns, committing to poverty, chastity, and obedience. However, unlike traditional religious orders, they made private vows to an individual rather than public vows to God, leaving them less protected by canon law. Regnum Christi's regulations, approved by the Vatican, required members to voluntarily relinquish decision-making authority and fully obey superiors, a controversial demand. Imagine you're a young woman, eager to live your faith, joining Regnum Christi's consecrated branch. You expect a spiritual journey, but instead, every aspect of your life is controlled. You're instructed on how to peel an orange, allowed to converse only at designated times, and prohibited from forming close friendships to avoid dividing loyalty to the group. Contact with family is limited to one phone call per month and 1 or 2 visits home per year. Your emails are monitored, independent thinking is suppressed, and you must conform to groupthink. Mary, a former member who left after 8 years, described this life as harsher than a monastery, saying, "You're not allowed to question or think differently. It's like a cult when you get out," according to National Catholic Reporter. Denise, who once managed a house for consecrated women in Mexico, shared the psychological trauma she endured after a decade in the movement. She realized Regnum Christi broke down vulnerable individuals, especially those striving for perfection. "They break you psychologically," she said, according to NBC News. September 25, 2010, Jesuit priest Ladislas Orsi, a canon law expert, called the requirement to relinquish decision-making dangerous, stating, "No one can give up their humanity unless they want to become a zombie," according to National Catholic Reporter. The mastermind behind this system was Marcial Maciel, founder of the Legionaries of Christ and Regnum Christi. Once praised as a charismatic leader, Maciel built a secretive, cult-like power structure to conceal his immoral lifestyle. He was exposed for sexually abusing seminarians, fathering at least 3 children, and living a double life. This system was not only created by Maciel but also sustained by senior leaders of the Legionaries and Regnum Christi, whom he trained and who remained loyal to him. They dismissed allegations against Maciel for decades, despite evidence of his abusive behavior dating back to the 1940s. Regnum Christi's leaders, particularly those overseeing the consecrated branch, were directly responsible for enforcing harsh regulations. They controlled members' lives, from monitoring emails to banning friendships, creating an environment critics described as manipulative and psychologically abusive. Some of these leaders, trained by Maciel, continued to hold power after his death, raising doubts about the effectiveness of subsequent reforms. The scandals of Maciel and Regnum Christi came to light through a Vatican investigation in 2009, lasting 8 months, Conducted by 5 bishops from different countries, the investigation interviewed over 1,000 members and visited most legionaries' houses. On May 1, 2010, the Vatican issued a scathing statement on Vatican VA condemning Maciel's true crimes and the power structure that concealed his immoral lifestyle, lacking authentic religious spirit. The investigation confirmed serious issues in Regnum Christi, particularly the minutely controlled lives of consecrated women, according to the New York Times, May 2, 2012. Handling of Marcial Maciel. In 2006, under Pope Benedict XVI, the Vatican disciplined Maciel, ordering him to live a life of penance and prayer, banning all public activities. After his death in 2008, the Legionaries acknowledged his crimes, including abuse and fathering children, leading to a broader investigation of both the Legionaries and Regnum Christi. Handling of Regnum Christi and its leaders. The Vatican intervened decisively. Pope Benedict XVI appointed Cardinal Velasio de Paulus as a special envoy to oversee the Legionaries' reform, and a separate investigator was assigned to Regnum Christi, according to the New York Times. In 2014, the Legionaries adopted a new constitution, approved by the Vatican, the Associated Press, May 19, 2014. In 2019, the Regnum Christi Federation, including the consecrated branch, received new regulations focusing on transparency, collective leadership, and protections against abuse. The Legionaries established a code of conduct, reporting procedures for allegations, and compensated 32 abuse victims since 2010, along with support programs like ESHMA, according to Catholic News Agency. However, many former members argue that Regnum Christi's senior leaders, loyal to Maciel, were not sufficiently held accountable. Some retained leadership roles, raising suspicions of a lingering culture of cover-up. Father Thomas Berg, a former Legionaries priest, called the reforms stalled in a 2012 National Catholic Reporter article, accusing leaders of maintaining a lack of transparency. Despite reforms, new scandals continue to emerge. In 2020, a Legionaries priest in Cancún abused girls aged 6 to 9, with allegations that Regnum Christi leaders covered it up, according to NBC News. A 2021 Legionaries report admitted 4 new abuse allegations from 2021 to 2022, with 27 priests identified as abusers since 1941, representing 1.9% of all priests. In 2023, 30 former consecrated women sued the Legionnaires in Chile, alleging abuse of power and conscience from 2008 to 2010, describing these acts as pervasive. Most recently, in March 2025, the principal of a Regnum Christi school in Spain resigned after a chaplain priest was arrested for abusing 5 girls, raising doubts about the movement's zero-tolerance commitment, according to Press Herald. Former members and victims continue to speak out. A group of 77 former students from a Regnum Christi school in Rhode Island sent a letter to the Vatican in 2012 accusing the boarding school of manipulation and emotional abuse, where they were isolated from their families for 49 weeks a year. The blog 49 Weeks a Year and the Regain Network became platforms for victims to share their experiences. Pope Francis, in a 2020 speech on Vatican VA, praised Regnum Christi's new constitution, but warned that Maciel's cult-like culture still taints the movement and the path to reform remains long. Regnum Christi is a paradox, a movement that inspires faith but also distorts it into control. Marcial Maciel and the leaders he trained bear primary responsibility, creating a system demanding absolute obedience, causing psychological harm, and stripping away personal freedom. The Vatican's intervention brought new regulations, victim compensation, and safety policies, but the presence of former leaders and new scandals raises doubts about whether the movement can truly change. Lessons learned. Faith communities must prioritize transparency and accountability to protect the vulnerable. The courage of former members, victims, and figures like Bishop Edwin O'Brien, who restricted the Legionaries' activities in Baltimore, demonstrates the power of truth. The Regnum Christi story challenges us to ask, can an organization built on a flawed foundation truly reform when the wounds of the past still linger? If you have thoughts on this story, share them in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated on other stories. Bye-bye.